Hello and welcome, everybody. And Annie, welcome to Elemental Conversations. We're so excited to chat with you today. I know I met Annie probably at least over a year ago, I'd say. Um,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, I was participating. I was the impact producer for a film, The Zebra and the Bear, and we participated in one of Annie's programs through Looky Pictures called the Guided Campaign. And we met weekly for community calls. And it was just it was such a powerful experience. For me, I learned a lot as a new impact producer. And then it was um, something that I realized was not just about film, but it was about taking care of ourselves. And that is something that Matt and I do a lot in our work. And so there was a lot of overlap, and I learned a lot just by, being a part of the community. So thank you, Annie, for that. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to meet you too because we have never met, and to be honest, I've been kind of like a slightly jealous sideliner as Pat O'Connor, who's one of our great friends and filmmakers who went through the process as Leslie and Pat went through the process. I was like on the sidelines listening, and I know that we did a lot of research, beforehand into like working with different people for this, and I know I remember when seeing the work that you all were doing together was just so in alignment with the work that we were doing. And I know I felt very much, even though we haven't met or worked together directly, real kindred energy and spirit. And so we're just such fans of anyone who's helping people, like take care of themselves and be better at what they do. And I'm a creative person. I believe everyone's a creative person, but I've been in the creative industry for probably 25 years or so, and have done work in film and but mostly as a designer, and just know how important self-care is and how often it's overlooked, especially in the arts and in the creative world. And so thank you for doing the work that you're doing, and just so happy to be here and have this conversation today and introduce you to our audience.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, I think what we're doing, and from what I've learned of your work, and Leslie, I've heard so much about you, Matt, through Leslie. I'm excited that we're going to have this conversation today, and excited to be able to support everyone who's listening on their own journey. And I hope that you get something out of it, at least one helpful thing from our talk today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Annie. And I know we like to start these conversations by going around and sharing something that's brought us joy recently, or a time that you've felt really alive. And so we can go around. I know, Matt, would you like to start?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
I
I
definitely.
call on Matt very often to go first, and then Annie, we can have you go, and then I can go.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to. And actually, it's always funny when we think about things that bring us joy and bring us alive. I'm always kind of looking for some like small thing throughout the day that, that's maybe unexpected. But today I've actually just been sort of overwhelmed with like gratitude and joy for um our coaching clients. We've had a day today of conversations really all day today on Zoom with people, and I'm just reminded when like when I show up fully and when we show up fully with others that are showing up fully, just how amazing that space is, and how, just brought alive in my element I've felt, I think sometimes we can be kind of like, I can get kind of tongue-tied for words. I'm a recovering perfectionist and working every day, and I sometimes I can't remember what to say, or I can't say things the way that I want to say them. And when we're just like flowing in those spaces with the people that we're, kind of meant to be with in that time, the words just come and everything makes sense, and it's so beautiful, and you feel like so much like in your fullest expression and alive. And that's how I felt for most of the day today. So yeah, that's my story for today. Yeah. Annie, how about you?
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm also a recovering perfectionist, so I understand the that struggle. So I'm a dance instructor. Last night I finished teaching an introductory class for my students. It was a 6-week class, And it was beautiful to see how they'd grown, how they were able to execute the moves, how much more confident they felt, the questions they were asking. And I think I've always been a teacher at heart. Even when I was a little kid, I'm the oldest of six, so that'll do it. But that really brought me a lot of joy, seeing their growth and seeing them have joy in dance.
What kind of
So
dance do you teach?
yeah, I teach a Latin dance called bachata, sensual bachata. It's from the Dominican Republic in Spain.
Yeah, I've heard of that. There was a time period where I had made a commitment to myself to actually learn dance and particularly like a Latin dance, some form of Latin dance, and looked for a lot of places to do it where we live and couldn't find it. Anything that like
Mm.
resonated with me, it's still something that's on the list of things to do. And so that's interesting. I love that. I didn't, that could have been on the list of things we didn't know about each other actually. So that's beautiful.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Well, I
Yeah.
have an online course, 30 days, 10 minutes a day, and you can learn. So
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah,
challenge.
we can. I love
Yeah.
how you both looked at each other and were like, "Game on!" I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can talk about that.
Yeah, I would love to. And we were just talking about how we haven't put any of our podcast recordings on YouTube yet. And I feel like now we almost have to because they need to see that moment you just described where we were
Oh
both,
yeah, I know. That's why I described it. I
Yeah.
was like, "No, you all need to
yeah,
see
this
this."
is good.
Yeah, we've been waiting for the right moment. Yeah, because like this is something that I've identified as something that I need really really badly in order to sort of like open up a little bit more and connect to myself in
Mm.
a different way. So it's terrifying to think about for myself. So it's like, and part of self-care is also like doing hard things as long as you know they're going to be something that's going to be good for you in the long run. So
Mm.
this would be one of those things.
Mm, yeah.
Okay.
Well, this
Understand.
moment's bringing me joy right now. But
Yeah.
I was, yeah, I was trying to think of, and Annie, as you're sharing that too, like thinking about the, um, your, your students like finishing that 6 week course, and then just the, I don't know, that feeling of, like celebration at the end of something like that is so joyful. I've been still in a, more of a hibernating type mode as winter is lingering on here. But this week, I think something that's brought me joy is my past self. Because we just recently got back from a trip to Spain to visit my best friend. And whenever we got home, I had strategically planned our schedule to where I would have a lot of time to rest. And so I've been so joyful having a little extra time at home in the evenings. I've been getting like 9 to 10 hours of sleep at
Mm,
night. And I'm just like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling rested. I'm feeling good. It's snowing outside right now as we record this, and I
mm,
enjoy that. It like helps foster that like hibernating vibe. And
Right.
yeah, that I'm just a lot of joy. Just a lot of joy right now.
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, you just made me think of something. I was debating on whether saying it or not. I think I'm going to because it's actually also a time when I felt really in my element and really alive, and it's connected to an unspoken language. And dance has its own sort of language. And when we were in Spain, I don't speak Spanish. And we were in a lot of situations where I was very dependent on others to speak for me, or I just had to find other ways to communicate with body language or with energy or with, and and I remember two instances in Spain. One was at a dinner at like a family dinner at our friend's house, at our friend's mom's house, where I could not communicate with anyone, and I needed to like and wanted deeply to express the gratitude and the what I was feeling for being there in that moment. And it was terrifying, and but also felt like very much alive because I had to like basically connect to every part of me that doesn't speak. And the same thing when we were rock climbing. We were at a rock climbing gym and communicate like rock climbing with other people, and that we don't speak the same language, but we could like teach each other or show each other things like how to do it just with the language of rock climbing. And I think
Mhm.
like the language of of dance is another one that got me to thinking about that and brought that back to my mind. So yeah,
Mm.
you can
Yeah,
communicate so
absolutely.
much without saying anything in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 90% or something of our communication is body language.
Yes. Yeah. Hmm. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, that's so much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so tell us about Looky Pictures and why you got started and why what you're doing is important in the film world.
Yeah. So, um, I have a company called Looky Pictures.
Yeah.
We connect the power of film with the power of people. We are essentially a marketing company for documentary films. And these films are really small labors of love. So if anyone out there is a creative, an entrepreneur, has a project they're pursuing, a vision that's bigger than them, something that they just want to get started or are having a hard time getting started or have started something and it's like rolling. Those are the kinds of filmmakers I work with who have a small dream, well, a big dream, a big vision, but small resources, very entrepreneurial, very intentional around wanting to make the world a more just and equitable place. And what we do at Looky Pictures is help them market their film once it's complete so that they can connect with audiences who can use their film as a tool to make the world more equitable and just.
Mm.
It's my ninth year this year uh, doing this work. And if we rewind, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was working in tech. I had a remote job back when no one had remote jobs. People, I was just talking to my friend about this, like how I had a remote job. I've only ever worked remotely except for my first 2 years of my career,
Wow.
where I was a school teacher. So back in those days, um, I would tell people I work from home, and they would be like, "How do you do that?" But I did. I worked in tech, and I had in me a desire to work with the arts, specifically film. I've always loved documentaries. When I was a teenager, I would go to film festivals, and I've just always loved them. I saw myself in them. A lot of the films that I grew up watching, documentary films, were about the suffering of marginalized communities. For anyone listening, I am not seeing. I'm a Dominican immigrant. I'm a woman of color. I'm Latina, and I identified with the suffering of the families in or the individuals in these documentaries. And I always thought to myself, there are other stories that I'm not seeing about joy, about rest, about just the other parts of existence that aren't suffering. So I wanted to work with films that I didn't know it at the time, but I was wondering, that question was in my mind, where are the other stories?
Mm.
As time unfolded and just life happened, I kept following my curiosity because that wouldn't go away. It was like this little light inside of me that I wasn't sure what the how was, but I felt the why, right? We're talking about our bodies being a way of communicating. They also communicate to us if we listen to them. They're like truly an oracle, I believe.
Mm.
And I felt that within myself, that there's something else here. And there's, I think, the path of your heart and the path of your mind. The path of your mind can, at least for me, the path of my mind was influenced by external circumstances, what I should be doing, go to college, get a good job, etc. And I ended up in tech, and I loved that job. It was a great job, and I love my career path, but I still felt in my heart a different path. So I kept going down that road and nurturing that light. I didn't let it go out, and that led me down a whole other realm of work, which was in the arts.
Mm.
I started Looky Pictures as a photography company. I used to love photography, and I did weddings, I did portraits, I did family shoots, and someone said to me, like, this is the best photo I've ever seen of myself. And I was like, okay, that's my goal.
Mm.
That became kind of my tagline. So Looky Pictures just came randomly to my mind as a name. And I said, it's so nice, you got to look twice. And that was kind of like my little tagline. So um, I took a lot of online classes that I was curious about on creative entrepreneurship. There was a platform called Creative Live. I don't know if they're still around, but there was a lot there on how to uh, run a creative enterprise, how to do photography, how to, do billing and invoicing and all that kind of stuff. And as I had the photography going, um, I, I kept just following my curiosity and not asking like, how is this going to turn out? No, I just kept taking action in the direction of my dreams, even though I didn't know what the path would look like. I was doing photography and I got into filmmaking, created a short film. That film was in the Miami International Film Festival. I'm based in South Florida. And I met someone there who had a feature film she was working on. We had lunch and she hired me. I quit my job like the next week. I put in my 2 weeks notice,
Oh.
the tech job. And her film, I was doing everything like jack of all trades kind of thing for her film, anything she needed. And it ended up getting into a social impact marketing like fellowship, her film, and I was able to participate. The moment they were presenting and they said the word impact producer, which is the film industry name for what I do and my job title, um, I looked at my friend, kind of like how you two looked at each other when I said I had a dance course, like in a moment of recognition.
Yeah.
And I looked at the director and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And since that moment, it's almost like it dropped out of the sky and my body was like, ding, that's it. That's the thing you've been waiting for. And this is the longest job I've had. I've never looked back. I haven't, this is my work for the last 9 years and I've loved it so much. And we've served over 1,000 filmmakers all around the world. I've been all around the world for this work, and it's just beautiful to see what these films have done and how they have changed people's lives and released folks from prison, educated lawmakers who have passed historic legislation for marginalized communities, and we've ended up working with films that primarily tell stories of joy,
Mm.
of really kind of underdogs, marginalized communities, a lot of women of color, like coincidentally, and um, and what they have done to better their communities, better their lives, support people that they love. So really, really happy and proud of the work that we've done. And it all unfolded out of surrendering to it, nurturing it, feeling it, and knowing that there was something there. And it became bigger than me. I could have never, if you sat me down 10 years and said, what is it you want to do? I couldn't even articulate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I can tell you, oh, this is what happened and it all makes sense. But throughout, and even today, this is still how I operate. What am I feeling? What am I intuiting? Where is my inner compass telling me that's aligned?
Hmm.
Um, so that's a very long-winded answer, but that's what's up.
Yeah. Nice, nice.
Thank you for sharing all of that. It's such a powerful story and
Mhm.
just, how you listened to your heart and what your body was telling you and didn't have to know the how, but knew,
Yeah,
each that path forward was illuminated just like you said by following your curiosity. And I mean, I love that. And because I think so often people need to know where they're going before they can take those steps
yeah,
forward. And just by trusting yourself and trusting where each next step took you, you literally got into a room and then had this message delivered and to you that you were, this is the work that you were supposed to be doing. And it's such a powerful reminder to trust ourselves, I think,
Hmm.
and trust in our own process and to listen to ourselves and, regardless of what we've been told we should do.
Hmm.
So
yeah.
thank you for sharing all of that.
And
Oh, you're
following
very
your
welcome.
joy is a radical act, I
Yeah,
think, and especially for people in marginalized communities, it's like expressions of joy are acts of resistance, I think, in claiming space. And yeah, I just love stories of like, impact and bringing everything together and creating space for people to make change and impact, which is what you're doing every day. You talked about being starting out as a photographer and creative. That's really cool. I actually did the same thing. Photography was something I did early on in my career as well. And it got me to thinking about like the early days of me in the creative industry and all the hard lessons that I learned, and all of the ways that I got kind of caught up in hustle culture and caught up in trying to prove myself, the perfectionism, performance pleasing, all of those things. Were there any kind of like hard lessons that you learned that kind of like that you carry with you today that serve to help teach especially as a creative person?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I I empathize with that deeply. The perfectionism, unhealthy boundaries, saying yes to every client that comes around, being super excited but not balancing that with just the rest of your life.
Hmm.
Like you shared earlier, Leslie, just having scheduling time for rest. That's definitely something that I have encouraged to my filmmakers and embody that too. Um, One practice that has really helped me is something called a daily vacation. It's something I did and then I kind of named it that just to transmit it, but it's taking a moment every day to just honor what's happening in front of you,
Mm.
like you would do on vacation. On vacation, you tend to be more present, you tend to be away from devices, right? We're not meant to sit in front of like an illuminated screen 8 hours a day. That's not what our bodies and eyes are made to do. So really taking time to um, uh, go for a walk, do some yoga, stretch, dance a song, anything that would take like 5 minutes or less. Have your tea or coffee outside, but taking time every day
Mm.
to just be present with yourself.
Mm.
Um, that's really important to me, and that's helped me be more present and be clear and let go of the external validation that comes with, I think, the hustle culture that you're alluding to.
Hmm.
Um, and in my industry, so much of it is about the external validation. There's so much judgment, awards, film festivals, submissions. Are you getting accepted to things or not? And that's really hard. It's really hard to get, 50 rejections for your film, and really having to remind yourself, why are you doing this?
Mm.
Um, Something that is really important to remember. Um, so making sure that you have that built into your own workflow. It's not Workflow isn't just work. There's like a rest flow to that too. Building in rest to your workflow.
Yeah, yeah, I love that concept of rest flow, and I love the idea of this is so funny you mentioned this daily vacation because this is a word that we have been talking about and thinking about is this idea of a vacation. Like culture has sort of taken the definite, like the root out of vacation. Like people think of a vacation as just a trip or, going somewhere for a family vacation, but to, to vacation comes from like vacating and vacating whatever space that you're in. It doesn't have to be a trip. It doesn't have to be this grand thing. It just means to vacate this space and move into another one. And I love that because we've literally just been talking about like what it means to sort of vacate a space
Nice.
and
Oh,
the
cool.
power in vacating. Like because we're always thinking about like like taking over spaces or invading spaces, and so
Mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
ironic that people sometimes invade spaces when they're on vacation, but that's a different irony that I just get. But I think that like this idea of vacate, the power in vacating is a really cool thing to think about and to kind of take back that word or reclaim that word.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And a rest flow.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy the rest flow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I said, I was like, all right, let's see, how can I package that?
No, I was
How
gonna
can
say,
we? That's where my mind goes, but also just rest. See, I don't even go to rest. I go to,
yeah.
ooh, how can I work on this? But
I
it's so, sometimes
understand
it's
that.
so fun. It's like, yeah, it's one thing where it's like so fun to work. That's, yeah, yeah, that's different. I think the first 5 years of doing this work, I was in hustle mode, but also I was just so fueled by it
Mm,
that I was working a lot. I was working like 80 hours a week. I would take on all the projects for a long time, for 5 years, Before this, I before Looky Pictures, the longest I had a job was like 8 months before I got bored. I had one for 2 years because I was contractually obliged, but otherwise I get bored. I'd
Yeah.
get bored. And would yeah. So this is working out so far, but truly having that 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 fueling of life in this hustle mode, I was also really fueled by it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Hmm.
I burned out. It took a while, but I did, and partly that was because the pandemic forced me to stop and slow down, and that's when I was forced to rest, and that's when I realized I had I had been overworking. I had been ignoring other parts of my life. I my every There was no balance. Everything was about work. All of my relationships were at the expense of work, my health, everything. So everything shifted, and I'm sure that that's what it's like for a lot of people uh, from who may have been in the same boat when it comes to the transformation that was catalyzed and forced upon them through the pandemic. Um, so, everyone's experience was different around that, but that was mine.
Hmm.
And now I have a very different work model. As Leslie mentioned, she was in our 6 month accelerator. Now we teach filmmakers how to market their own film and are serving more filmmakers, and they're having a bigger impact because they have the fuel, the desire. No one's going to be more passionate about your film than you and your team. So we're really giving them the tools to do that, and the community, because it's work that's done alone, much like any other entrepreneur, any other creative who is pursuing a vision that only they can see. So when you're with other people, right, other entrepreneurs, other creatives, other filmmakers, other artists, you each get it. You get what you're doing and what you're going through.
Hmm.
So yeah, now I have a lot more balance, and I could have done that before, but I'm really, really enjoying teaching, coaching our filmmakers. We still do have projects that we ourselves run and work on. They're very few, maybe like one or two a year. It's funny you said resistant and joy. One of them is called resistant and joy. So right on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the nature of the work now, and I definitely take time to rest each day. I now have time to dance, which has made me more embodied. Not That's something I do every single day. Either teach dance, dance myself, train. I just came from a dance conference. These are a thing, by the
wow.
way.
These are, I'm
Like
sorry.
they're a thing. I didn't know that this was a thing that people did. Like go to a dance conference. It's so cool. Like you dance for like 3 days. There's like pool parties. You take workshops like from 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's
Then,
amazing.
yeah. Then you go to a pool party from like 4 to 7, and then you dance all night from
Oh
like
my,
11 p.m. to 6 a.m.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
heaven on earth for me. So I'm really loving that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah. And I've often said like I love to go dance and to be with people and dance. And I used to take formal dance classes growing up, and then I kind of got away from it. But anymore it feels like there's not really any place to go to dance that's, one, for me at like a reasonable hour, or two, feels safe.
Yes,
A lot of places that are dancing are like dance clubs where there's a lot of drinking or at a
totally.
bar, and like those places aren't inherently unsafe. But there's just like a different energy to it. And so hearing about a dance conference, I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds
Yes. I know. It was a whole other world for me when I went. So no one, you know what people bring? Their own water bottles
Uh,
because they didn't do it. It's like going to the gym.
yeah.
wow.
There's no drinking, there's no alcohol. You can bring people, will, but it's like there's water bottles everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can like leave your stuff. I left my phone, someone brought it back to me. Like in
Mhm.
South Florida, that is unheard of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
No. So it's a really, I think, formal dance, at least in the Latin dance, which is what I know, that community, whether it's salsa, bachata, zouk, kizomba, those dances are the ones that I primarily interact with. Those communities are so beautiful. And next time you're in Spain, that's the heart of Central Bachata. So
Okay.
you can
Mm.
check that out, where it was
I didn't
created.
know that.
But, but yeah, dance socials and dance spaces for Latin dance are usually quite uh, safe, and there aren't substances and things like that. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I might look up dance conferences now.
Yeah.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. There's in my 30-day class, there's a whole thing on how to find socials near you, which is what
Of
they're called.
course. Okay. Well, we travel quite a bit
Yeah, we're
and
always on the road.
live in
Or
Oh,
different
nice.
places, so that gives us a little more access to bigger cities sometimes and just different
Nice.
places.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but a class sounds great because like I know for me learning the fundamentals and kind of having some kind of an idea of what I'm doing in a safe space like beforehand
Yeah.
helps me with
Oh,
the
absolutely.
courage to kind of like, like move in a, in a way to where I feel like I know what I'm doing or I've got a basis for
Yes.
to start with. So yeah, that would be yeah, online course would be a good way to like start that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, to going back along the lines of like a spark and feeling that,
Hmm.
um, for me, I have always felt a spark around movement.
Hmm.
So when I was little, I started martial arts and I kept doing that for 20 years. And then the pandemic hit again, right? And I couldn't do martial arts. I was supposed to have my first boxing tournament competition the month March 2020. So that got canceled. But I was like peak boxing. So I went from like working 80 hours a week, boxing like 4 or 5 days a week, very intense. Everything I was doing was intense, to having to completely stop and slow down. Now I have a more manageable workload. We're closed on Fridays. I work Monday through Thursday. Um, very, very balanced. And my movement practice has turned into dance for me.
Mm.
For me, listening to my body in a new way has been creating a relationship with my body, seeing it as an oracle, understanding feeling my feelings within my body and sitting with them,
Mhm.
um, has been really important and part of my dance journey. Now, other people go through that journey in different ways if they do, right? It's just like uh, having any other journey. Like most people go through some sort of like fitness journey where they try to lose weight.
Mhm.
That's a different relationship to your body. You're trying to change it so it looks a certain way. That's usually what the impetus is around that,
Mhm.
which is perfectly fine. We've all done that. We're all, no judgment around that. That's also part of a journey to honor and the feeling of that. But for me, it was really dance, and dance changed everything. It let me be more embodied, feel my feelings. Some people go through that with martial arts or yoga or a breathing practice,
Mhm.
journaling, whatever that may be. But that listening, getting better at listening to my intuition and feeling my feelings has created a reprioritization within me, that has me moving more in the direction of dance and self-care, and I'm exploring coaching and providing that as a service and things like that, because that feels just more aligned for me right now.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what that journey has looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I relate in my own way to that time period of the pandemic, that shelter in place where everything just like overnight changed.
Mhm.
And I specifically for me, I slowed down a lot. And of course, everything that I had planned was canceled. And I was before the pandemic, I had an event planning business. And so I was an
Yeah.
entrepreneur and I was on several boards and involved in a bunch of different community organizations in various capacities. And and I was also working out at a very high level and beginning to compete in obstacle course racing and doing really well. And I felt really good. It was the strongest I'd ever felt
Mm,
physically. I was just on the other side of a divorce. And so I was like peak all of the things. And
mhm,
then whenever I slowed down, I kind of transitioned from, I think, performance
mhm,
um, to sustainability is how it felt to
mhm,
me. So everything that I was doing it in a way that was more honoring what I felt like I needed
mhm.
versus what I'd planned to do on paper. And
Yeah.
that became so much more sustainable for my life. And I think the way that I connected with myself more was through yoga. And
Mm,
I'd had a yoga practice for a, quite a while before that, probably 10, 15 years. But it changed during
mm,
that time. It became very different for me. And it was, I felt more connected to myself and my body, and also decided to go through yoga teacher training during that time. And that was something I'd always been really intimidated to do. But then something happened. I don't know. And I had the time because being an event wedding planner, weekends for trainings were not, didn't line up. But then all of a sudden now I have all of this free time. So all of my excuses or reasons for why it wouldn't work were gone. And so,
mm.
but
Yeah.
that was kind of with all of the things, I was able to see what I actually wanted to do and what I didn't want to do and when it was canceled that I cared about. And it was a very short list of
Mm,
things that I actually missed doing that I felt called to. So that was a really impactful time for me to even see what I wanted to carry forward. And I think that my self-care practices changed so much. And like even to now, I mean, I know I've been talking about prioritizing rest this past week, but that's not untypical for what my normal weeks look like. I like evenings are sacred time to me. It is rare that I'll schedule something in the evening that's social
mm,
related or organizationally related. And so that's something that kind of came from the pandemic because before it was like every night I had something, and now
mm.
it's one night a week, maybe. And that feels really good to me. And I don't have a desire to do otherwise, which I'm grateful to have that option. But that was a really, really transformative time.
Nice. Yeah, I completely sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I think, so many people, no matter what line of work that they're in, or no matter who they are, no matter what they do, like we desire to have impact in our lives. Like, you are working in the film industry, you work in a lot of different industries, but like impact is so important. And it's definitely important, in filmmaking because, especially in documentary filmmaking, because everyone is the documentary is almost always telling a story, that everyone can learn from, and it's stripped away from all of the bells and whistles of a feature film and just down to like the real nitty gritty like stories about what are happening in people's lives and in the world. And I think like, so often we're taught to that in order to have impact. I mean, even the word impact, it just has this sort of like, it can sound very like aggressive and action and taking action and going and going and going and going. And it's like, so like what have you found like in your working with people and working with clients and working with filmmakers, um that how it has like focusing on self-care been, helped certainly? Do you have any particular examples of how focusing on self-care has produced like results that potentially, we would only think about with pushing or with not taking care of ourselves and overworking?
Yeah. Um, no, I think that that is something that our filmmakers say is particularly helpful in our approach.
Hmm.
Um, and we work with both feature films, shorts, episodic, all different types of formats. Um, but regardless, the emphasis on creating a self-care practice, which
Hmm.
is what we're talking about, this rest flow, that's something we have our filmmakers do right from the beginning.
Hmm.
The grounding, the that comes with acknowledging that you need care when you are trying to provide care through story,
Hmm.
is really powerful for our filmmakers. And I think for anyone trying to do something that is bigger than them, trying to pursue a vision that's bigger than them, whether it's a work of art, running for office, um, pursuing a career in sports, whatever. Anything that is bigger than you, that requires you personally expanding your life force to impact a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, I think of that, the trope around water and a glass of water. You can fill your cup and give what's in the cup, and eventually you're depleted.
Hmm.
Or you can fill your cup so much that it overflows and you give the overflow.
Hmm.
So that is what we operationalize and encourage our filmmakers to do, but really strategically. Like when they start working with us, the first thing they do is create a strategic plan. The first part of that plan is a care plan. They have to actually write out how they are going to take care of themselves through this journey that could be 3 to 8 years
Hmm.
of trying to release this film and create it, and all of that. Um, and build that into their workflow. They also have to write out in that care plan how they're going to take care of themselves, how they're going to celebrate their wins, no matter how small. You know, you drafted the newsletter, you didn't even send it, you drafted it. Like, you've taken a step forward, celebrate that. And that could be a daily vacation, that could be having an ice cream, that could be going for a walk, just enjoying the fact that you're alive is celebration. And remembering that yes, you're pursuing this vision and it's in the future. So you can anchor your happiness to a future, but you're alive today. Let's remember that, and be grateful and happy for that. So that's, I think, created clarity around how to take action and how to prioritize for a lot of our filmmakers. Because otherwise, it's kind of like you're in the go, 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 do everything, hustle, make it all happen, get everything done on the list. There's no way. There's no way. Um, you you have to prioritize. You have to sleep eventually. Whether, even if you don't want to sleep, your body's going to do it for you. So might as well do it in a way that works and
Yeah.
helps it. You know. So um, that approach has been grounding, clarifying, and I think a relief to our filmmakers, so that they pursue the same vision, this with the same tenacity, the same passion and drive, but in a way that allows them to not forget their mom's birthday. You know, not let their life pass by and suddenly they look up and they're like, where did it go?
Mm.
You know, what was I doing? Was this film really more important than, um, something else in my life? And sometimes it can be. That film might be that important, but it's I have yet to find a filmmaker that has worn themselves out, which is what happens if you don't have the intentional practice around rest. Or this is true of anyone, worn themselves out and been like, it was worth it. It was worth foregoing my health. It was worth foregoing my family, my relationships, everything. No, I've yet to find someone who's hustled so hard that they're like, this was so worth it. Even when the outcome is amazing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like filmmaker or otherwise, entrepreneur, they've made
Yeah.
$50 million. No. I have a friend actually who has a business that's worth $50 million, and she said, "I'll give it all up to for all the love in the world. Like, I'll work at McDonald's for that." And nothing wrong with that. Nothing working at McDonald's. There's nothing wrong with that. Or no value judgment around that. It's more just like it's okay. It's. I was talking to a friend about how comparison is what makes us feel inadequate. Why we um, feel the need to hustle for external validation rather than internal drive.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a little bit of a tangent, um, but seeing, I have not seen someone hustle and said it was worth foregoing all of the joy and peace that I took for granted. Not yet. Maybe there's someone out there, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know just from going through the program with Pat for his film, it was it was really great to have those milestone celebrations because it helped, I think it helped him and it helped us as a film team to really be present to what was happening while still moving towards these bigger goals. Because otherwise, I feel like we would have missed it, you know,
Mm,
because and I think this is true of so many things, not just film, but when we are in that hustle culture and that go go go, it's easy to get from the start to the finish and be like, whoa, what just happened?
Hmm.
And then,
mm,
not enjoy the process on the way. So I found that so valuable. And just even the idea of celebrating, I know it was the weekly calls were are called clarity calls. You said the word clarity earlier.
mm,
It reminded me, and I loved that we all shared in each other's celebrations too. Like that was such a powerful part of being in community, was like not only learning together and seeing that the things that maybe we were struggling with, other people were struggling with too, so then you feel less alone, but also having other people validate
mm.
those small yet really big actions, like drafting a newsletter, like you said.
Yeah.
That it just as an entrepreneur, like I know what a big deal that is. And
Mhm.
I try to celebrate those things, even, even now. That's something I've taken from from that program. So again, I, everything that I feel like was, is geared towards filmmakers can be applied to anything. And, just all of the self-care. So I was
Yeah.
so grateful for that and what I was able to take from that and
Yeah.
apply to my
How
life.
many times if we had to get, well, just even with ourselves, but getting people to celebrate is just like sometimes it's like pulling teeth. It's so difficult to get people to celebrate. And you were talking about
Yeah.
comparison, and there's the saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Mm,
But then I was thinking to
mhm.
myself, the space that you're creating, with filmmakers and encouraging, sometimes comparison might also be able to provide permission in a
Mm,
space where you're together in a safe space, and someone's like, these two people are celebrating, like these two
oh,
filmmakers are celebrating. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I don't usually celebrate, and like maybe it'll kind of get you to
mm,
kind of go, well, maybe I should celebrate, because when we're comparing ourselves against other people, you're like, well, that isn't worth celebrating. Look at what they did. I just did this little
mm,
thing. And yeah, that's so applicable to every walk of life, or every project launch, or every thing that anybody wants to do, is just being able to celebrate the little things. And when you create that community and see people, like, have you seen people like really come out of their shells and do things that normally they wouldn't have done when they're in your community, like in one of your
mm.
containers?
Yeah, absolutely. And to give some context too to what Leslie shared in relation to what you just asked, Matt, our milestones are for that. So it's a
Yeah,
6 month program and it's gamified.
yeah.
The game is you reach the two milestones. One is creating a marketing plan essentially for your film, a strategic plan, and then the other is producing an actual event with an audience.
Hmm.
So those two are the big goals or milestones that we celebrate. And when you reach the second one, we have a celebration on the call, our weekly call with all of our filmmakers to celebrate someone who has achieved the second milestone. And we do like a Q&A with them. It's lovely. But that has been that moment of community of people sharing each other's journeys has consistently been the best part of the program. It has rated highest by our participants.
Mm.
So I love that you flip that. That comparison can give permission
Mm.
um, to recognize what your blessings are.
Mm.
One of the things we do at the end of each call is say what we're grateful for and what we're working on.
Mm.
And the first few times we have new folks who are in it, they're just like, "Oh, grateful. When's the last time I had to tell a group of people what I'm grateful for? And you got to do it every week now." So that it's now it's like clockwork, it's been programmed
Yeah.
slowly into our filmmakers. So my hope is that it also allows them to do that on their own after they've stopped working with us on their journey,
Mm.
and think to themselves, how am I celebrating? So it's lovely to see, and it's something for all of us to remember that, if you woke up today, you're winning in my book. At
Mm.
least that's how I see it.
Yeah.
I'm golden.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Everything after this is only up, no
Yeah.
matter what happens today. No matter, even if it's a tragedy, it's something that is part of the human experience, and I'm here to witness it.
Mm,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
yeah, that was really powerful.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I was also I was thinking about how I think it was this time last year we went to dinner with some friends for
Mm.
a specific the the point of the dinner was to celebrate.
Oh,
And we I think it was we were planning a retreat with
Hmm.
someone, so we were co-hosting a retreat, and we had scheduled this dinner to celebrate a milestone point in the retreat planning. And turns out that by the time we got to that point, we had ended up rescheduling the retreat because no one had signed up for the originally scheduled one. And then we were like, okay, well, let's still meet to celebrate because
nice.
it's still going to
Yeah.
happen.
We created a retreat.
Yeah, and we had like done all of the, all of the pre-planning and all the things. And we're like, that is like that's an accomplishment. And
Yeah.
so we still met, and then it ended up some other people who we knew. We live in a tiny town called New Harmony, and it's this magical little place. We've got a lot of people that come and live here seasonally. And there were a few people that were in town, and they wanted to come to this dinner. And so we talked to the other person, and we all decided that would be great. Let's all come together, celebrate. And the thing I remember being the neatest about this experience
Hmm.
was that in order for these strangers, because we knew everyone, but not everyone knew each other. And so, in order for us to share the celebrations, we had to share context about what, like, why it was important. And so we learned so much about each other that, I mean, like, even for us, like the people that we knew, because they were with people they didn't know and they were talking about celebration, like we learned so much about them. And it was this really beautiful evening just talking about like celebrating in a situation where on the outside, like you could have called it a failure, you
Hmm.
know, because it was stemmed from a canceled retreat or
Yeah.
rescheduled retreat. And so,
Yeah. I cried.
yeah,
Like at this table in the middle of all these people. And think, yeah, it was
forgot
amazing.
about that.
And everybody was sort of like, I don't think people get the opportunity or get asked in a genuine way to like celebrate themselves or celebrate something. And everybody had something and they showed up with it. And it was amazing. Yeah.
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 But it just kind of reminded me like celebration being such an important part of self-care.
Yeah.
And the guided campaign, how that was such a um the milestone celebrations, like you were talking about, how those were so impactful.
Hmm.
um yeah.
Well, certainly, and I think that's beautiful that again in community, voicing it out loud, and something that's made me what you just shared made me think of is how we design celebrations is to celebrate the input, not the outcome.
Yeah.
Mm,
So our milestone in the program, for example, we celebrate that you've created your plan, not the outcome of the plan. Um, yes, you have external goals that are outside of your control, but we celebrate the things that are in your control. So with a retreat, for example, you probably still looked at venues. You were more capable and had more networks and resources and potential audiences for the retreat, even though the date shifted, right? So you've made some progress. So we always celebrate progress, every little step. That's why drafting the newsletter, celebrate drafting it and celebrate sending it, right? All of the input, but the output, however many people click, all of that stuff, analyze it and digest it. But the celebration is in the actions that you can control and
Hmm.
take those.
Hmm.
I love that. That's a really powerful practice, I think,
Yeah.
because we do so often celebrate the outcome and not the work that we
Yeah.
put
Most
to
people, that's
create.
all they ever do.
Yeah.
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 That's what we're taught to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be thinking about that one.
Yeah. Well, Annie, I just I want to kind of acknowledge you too in this kind of at the end of this conversation, just how like coming across you and meeting you, and even for me, we haven't met, but like meeting such a kindred spirit and seeing what you all were doing, like it's hard doing this work sometimes, you know, it's like this when you're sort of like swimming upstream to what we're taught and how we're indoctrinated. And for us, I know, and I'll speak for myself, but I know Leslie would agree with this as well, is that meeting people like yourself that we feel so connected to that are doing work that's so in alignment with what we're doing is also gives us permission to keep doing it. And your work, and I know Leslie and Pat going through your program was very impactful for us, just indirectly, even just to witness like your program and what you're doing and how you're helping people, and just the sometimes, you know, we can feel like we're just you know, talking to a wall, you know, sometimes, or out talking out into the void, and you don't know if anyone's listening, or you don't know if anyone else is actually doing this. And so just I'm just grateful for you and what you're doing and your impact in our world, just in doing what you're doing, and us being a part of that, me indirectly, has just impacted us in a really great way. And so I'm just grateful for that and appreciate you for that and appreciate your time here on this call as well. And so just to kind of like a final question would be, you know, like what do you want others to take away from this message? Like if you could leave people with like one message or a couple of things, what would be like top line for you?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you very much for your kind words. I really appreciate it and absolutely feel kindred spirits in trying to make the world a more intentional, thoughtful, grounded place,
Hmm.
especially in uh, a culture where we have the privilege to choose what we do.
Mm,
Um, I get to start a business. In 1974, I wouldn't be allowed to do that, you know, as a woman, as an immigrant. And I get to do that.
mm,
Mm.
And I do not take it for granted a single second. My filmmakers are doing incredibly hard and important work, as are any visionaries, artists, entrepreneurs. Um, and if you're listening to this, you might be in the same camp. And the fact that you even get to pursue a vision, what a privilege, right? I remind my filmmakers sometimes that no one is forcing you to do this work. It is an absolute privilege to do this work. You know, it's a privilege to, I think, pursue, be in a society that you're even allowed to do that, in the infrastructure that you live in. If you're listening to this and you're not in that place and you're doing it anyway, even more powerful, more power to you. You know,
mm,
do what you're called to do, and that is important. And uh, the to answer your question, the thing I would um, leave listeners with is um, really be true to what is calling you. You might not know the how, but if you feel a spark, if you have a curiosity about something, follow it and honor it and enjoy it.
mm,
It might turn into something external, like a business. It might turn into nothing,
mhm,
and just a pursuit that brings you joy.
mm,
But that's, I think, really what matters. If I no longer found joy in this, I would stop doing it.
mhm,
So really, be curious about your joy.
mm, mm,
Be curious about your joy, and that um, is a privilege
mm.
to be able to do.
Yeah, beautiful.
You know, don't take it for granted.
Mm.
So the final thing that we ask too is how can people stay connected with you outside of social media? Are there good ways for people if they want to stay connected to you? We tend to we all the social handles will post all that, but we like to also focus on ways for people to stay connected outside of social media. Is there any way for that?
I love that question so much.
Mm. Mm.
Yes, all the socials. But I do have newsletters. I have two. I have a personal, and then I have our company one. So you
Mhm.
can go to lookylookypictures.com.
Mhm.
If you're a filmmaker or curious about our work or interested in anything that I've described here, and you can sign up for our newsletter.
Mhm.
Um, you'll get a freebie when you do, of course. And then I have my personal newsletter where I share my own art, my dance, things like that. And that you can find at anniemercedes.com.
Mm.
Yeah. If you're more inclined on the like self-care, you're not a filmmaker, go there.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. And we can find out more information about your dance instruction
Yeah,
and everything else at anymercedes.com. Okay, awesome.
correct. Yes. Yeah,
That was
all the
my
links
next
are there.
question.
Yes, yes, that's there. I'm happy to give your listeners 20% off the course. So I'll give you a code for that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Um, you're welcome. Let's make it joy. How about that? Does that sound good?
Oh, I
Oh
love it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's all yours. I
Okay,
will
amazing.
give you
Thank you
that
so
and the link for that.
much.
Oh, you're very welcome. If I can help people dance, I'm all about it.
Oh, I love it.
Nice.
And I know that I think, I can't remember if we mentioned this while we were recording or not, but you have an upcoming self-care summit
Oh
through
Oh
yes.
Looky
yeah,
Pictures. And then you're participating in a self-care summit that we're hosting
yes.
after that. So is there
Oh, we
anything
talked about that off the air. Okay, I was like, I thought we already covered
specific
that. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
that you wanted to share about the Looky self-care summit that we
Yes. Thank
let the
you.
audience know?
Yes, I almost forgot. Yes, we're hosting a big one-day summit all
Uh-huh.
around self-care. It's called the Filmmaker Self-Care Summit.
Mhm.
It's a one-day virtual event for small documentary film teams or anyone who is interested in self-care and is a creative or just curious about it. It's the tickets are less than $20. We're in early bird now. It's live March 27th of 2025, and thereafter the recording will also be available for purchase. So if you go to lookylookypictures.com, you'll find it. If you listen to this after that date, it will be in our shop. So the recording will be there if you'd like to check it out.
Mhm.
But I'm also super excited, and I love that the stars aligned. That you are also having a self care summit, and I'm tremendously honored to be a part of that
Mm.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so grateful you're going to join us, and we're really excited. It's an annual event that we've hosted. This is the first time we've called it a summit.
Hmm.
And so we're really excited about that. And self-care really, I mean, we have a group of speakers that is just going to cover so many different areas.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at them right now. We have a little poster up, and it's just like looking at all the faces and everything. I just can't
yeah,
get
so
enough of
Annie, your
it.
picture's on our refrigerator right
Yeah.
now.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is so exciting to bring people together, and it's going to be such a good time. Yeah.
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 I'm very excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. And anybody listening, if you have any thoughts or questions, or does anything that resonated with you as you've been listening to this, send us a message. We'd love
Mm.
to hear from you. And let us know something that you're celebrating these
Mhm.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let us know and
Yeah.
send Annie a message and let her know. And yeah,
Yes, please.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I welcome DMs. So I know we talked about off social media, but I feel like that's a little bit more like connection.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're welcome to DM me on Instagram, both at Looky Looky Pictures or Bachata Butterfly. I'll give you that, and that's my dance
Awesome.
Instagram.
Awesome.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And we're just so grateful to have met you and have you in our world. And we're just looking forward to more collaboration in the coming days and maybe a little bit of dance.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor. I was so happy when Leslie reached out. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait for your being a part of your self-care summit. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.